personnel, which I don't know if that's the proper channel, but, because probably should go to finance and then county board, but, cause I imagine county board's the only one that can, at least that's what the handbook says, county board's the only one that can adjust pay adjustments.
Where are you at now on the wage scale?
I think I'm a 16 right now.
You grade 16 on the wage scale,
What's that?
level 16?
Grade 16, I believe that's what it is there. Ain't that what they go by?
Jamie, it's Ashley, can you answer that, please?
Grade 16 currently. Then I believe in the JDQ, the last time I read it, wasn't there something in there about, I may have just screwed up with another one, but was there something like 108 buildings or something to oversee?
That was in the JDQ submitted for the appeal.
And it still didn't change anything.
It did not.
Is that even an accurate number? Where are we getting 108 buildings from? Do you guys, anybody know?
I don't know how that was.
I don't have the exact tally, but the last I did was 121 buildings that I.
Buildings or departments?
No, buildings, I
Buildings.
think that 108 come from Andy, to be honest with you, Jim. That's where I think that 108 buildings come from Andy.
Where are we getting 108 buildings?
Well,
Trails in, the fairgrounds, everything on the airport, everything with this, and then the tax, the ones that are taken back on taxes, they gotta take care of them too. Joint management buildings. Am I missing any, Gary?
There are 9 joint management buildings, so like I said, we're up on 121, I thought was my last count on that.
So maintenance is overseeing buildings that come back on taxes?
Yes. They gotta mow the grass, they gotta take care of buildings until they're sold or whatever's done with
The
them.
forestry shop and, enterprise mechanic
We
shop.
can discuss that in finance.
Yeah, well,
And that's where we talk about these properties.
that's what I was told with by Tom or Mike anyhow. I think it was Tom, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So in the past, our standard is always to follow the wage study and the wage scale. Unless there's a major outlier, but I don't see a major outlier because they're line one and bullet point one is oversee buildings and grounds. Doesn't say excludes joint management grounds. So if we had other people in the past on pay raises too, and said, no, on the same grounds, it didn't matter if they're a great employee. We follow the wage scale.
Correct there. Is this job description fairly accurate of the duties that you do?
It's, I mean, it's typical, I do every single thing on here. And like I brought it up to, Carlson Denton before, I mean, I get that was already predetermined, so the people think about what needed to happen already, but,
What was that last statement?
I know that was already predetermined, I mean, just by the way it went down.
Could you clarify that statement, please?
Just what I said, I guess, I believe it was predetermined already.
I guess that's your opinion.
Like I said, I've been a team player, just that's the way I am, I took care of it, I brought it up in 2022 to HR. And that, we had the Carlson Denton thing, I'm bringing it up again because I go above and beyond what is, asked of me. And And, like I said, if them hours were, I just went to October 15th. You're still getting hours built up here for the new year. There's no new year yet, but, I mean, you're talking 50 grand if I pursue it here.
Again, there's a lot of employees that go above and beyond, they don't get, I'm not trying to minimize what you do, but they don't get extra pay for it.
If my job description said city buildings on it, I'd be totally fine with it, but,
They're not city buildings.
city county,
They are joint management buildings. And the contract with the joint management is the county does the maintenance.
so why do I go to a separate, my oversight is property, so why do I go to a separate, committee meeting for the joint management buildings then?
Because there is a joint management committee. There's a specific committee that covers the buildings that are jointly managed between the county and the city. That's been that way as far as I know, as long as it's been, as long as they've been there.
And then that changes every other year as to who chairs that committee, correct?
To my understanding,
my
yes.
understanding.
Yep, it rotates back and forth between county and city.
Yeah, this year it's the city.
Is it every year or is it every 2 years? Do you know?
I think it's every year. Every year.
Never been on it, so I guess I don't know.
Yeah, but it's every year in January.
Well, and Andy was a county employee and he oversaw these joint management buildings with the city when he was taking care of maintenance along with administration.
Correct.
So there's nothing that's been changed
No.
from how the county approaches the joint management buildings. Is what I'm getting at, we've always been a part of that maintenance. Just someone else was doing it before. I mean, right? Andy was doing it before we had a
Yeah.
facilities manager, is what I'm getting at.
Right. Well, I mean, that started out, Mike Natchez was doing it. And
Yeah.
when Mike Natchez left,
Then Andy assumed the role and,
well, the board
or however they did it.
kicked the can to him and it rode that way, so it went with Mike's position, and then when Andy took over the maintenance along with AC, it went with him.
Yeah, I'm with Jonathan, if we're on step 16, I don't see anything that warrants an increase for the job description, the JDQ.
I'm gonna clarify, it's grade 16 and step 8, just,
Okay, step 8,
yeah,
that's what we're looking for, step.
okay,
Okay.
sorry.
So even step 8 for a position that's been here, what, 2 years now?
Not quite.
There's still, it's not like a step 2. There's plenty of people working here that are on much lower steps.
Well, I guess it is a salary position, so I mean, a salary position to me, you are gonna assume some hours over, you may have, you're mandated 38.75, but, a salary position is gonna assume some hours over.
Some, but that's quite a bit, would you say?
Maybe so, Gary, but it's still within the purview of the salary position, and you took this position as a salary position.
Not knowing certain facts of it.
consensus? Go anywhere, what you wanna,
Up to this point, why tell them that Carlson Diamond Circuit?
yes, we have.
Yeah, I agree with John, I don't see it.
I believe the handbook says, any pay adjustment is ultimately county board's responsibility. I don't think it really, matters to it.
Then why are we talking to you?
'Cause
Then why is it on the agenda?
Because property gave it to you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just, let's either move on or to the next topic, or, cause I don't need to sit here and hear this.
Gotta make a motion, yes or no, then, somebody?
Do we, if there's no motion to discuss it, do you want a motion to vote no?
I guess that's a good question. I think we have to, Jim, because, property did refer to us, so I think we need to make a motion, either which direction we're going.
Well, I'll make a motion that for circumstances, it stays as is, I see no change.
Carlson Diamond Circuit.
Follow Carlson, definitely.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Is there any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
What was the motion again?
To leave it as is for the Carlson Detman study.
Are we waiting for that to be done then?
No, it's already been through Carlson Detman, the JDQ was.
And it was reviewed.
Yeah, and this is where it got put, so. Is Jeremy,
Couldn't he skip to?
yeah, we can. Is Jeremy gonna come down or?
Yeah, he volunteered to go last, cause I also have a meeting to go to. so-
Oh, okay. Nick, you're up.
Right, basically what we'd like to do is, and I actually helped me put together a modification to, or amendment to the resolution for the administrative assistant position. That position has become pretty critically important for the department, and I just want to make sure that we are able to fund that position, however we can. And so, basically, it's changing the language to say that we can use all of our available funding sources to fund that position.
So initially, when this position was approved, it was strictly grant funded. So if something were to happen to that grant, we didn't get it one year, it wasn't as much as we were hoping to get, that would impact our ability to keep her hours the same or to retain her at all. So this.
And even beyond that, if we wanted, and I would want to have her work on some non-metallic mining. The way that the resolution is written, I can't pay her out of that non-metallic mining because it's not a grant. So basically, I want to set that position up so that we can pay for it using all of our available funding sources.
How many different places you got?
There's different grants and then there's what we need for levy.
Four different grants over the next couple of years. Potentially zoning, non-metallic mining, that pot. Those are the biggest ones. Majority of the funding is still gonna be for grants. It's gonna be land information grant, the SWRM grant, the Fish and Wildlife grant we have, Devil's Creek grant.
questions on the resolution as presented?
Can I
So
just-
that-
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so I should say, and Jamie's here as well, so she can speak to it more, we do have to consider the financial impact to levy possibly, so that's, worst case scenario is what we put in there. For instance, if, the current person leaves, a new person comes on and they need a family health insurance plan, that's worst case scenario there, that would hit the levy.
That's an excellent segue to my question.
Okay.
Is that 68,000 that's estimated, 69,000 in the budget for 2024?
No, well, I mean, is it in the budget coming from grants? Yeah. I mean, that position is covered with grants in 2024.
So what if we changed it to, I don't like this 100%, but instead of department budget, other grants within land conservation?
Well, that's what we kind of wanted to stay away from, was the grant language, because that would preclude us from using the non-metallic mining, which is not a grant, it's fees that are collected under the non-metallic mining program.
So if we went grants and other needs,
I guess that would work.
that opens up your opportunities, but maybe doesn't affect the budget much.
What's your, Nick, what's your take on this grant funding drying up or whatever? I mean, do you see a year from now that this would all go away and it would have to be a levy position?
The land information grant, no, and that's the one that is still kind of the core of this position. That one I don't see going away at all. The others, the Devil's Creek grant it's a 3-year grant. The Bush Fish and Wildlife is a 2-year grant, and so those are longer term grants. In the meantime, we'll be applying for other grants as well.
And what is currently the LAG grant, what percentage of this position does it cover?
Anywhere from 50 to 75%, depending on what, on a payroll to payroll basis, depending on what she's been working on. It's anywhere from 50 to 75% each payroll.
Have you got any kind of an estimation how much of would hit the levy with some of this change? I mean, I assume the figure that's in front of us is if it was 100%.
That would be
100%
the absolute
Right.
worst
Yep,
case.
yes.
Okay, so have you got any kind of estimation if it's
If for
10,000 or 20,000?
dollar wise, no, percentage wise, I mean, it would be maybe 20% of that. So
12,
13,
15, yeah.
13.6. And that's assuming that there isn't even any other pot of money, that there's no non-metallic mining fees.
And the way this stands right now, if that was to happen, that position would be unfunded unless we changed it to be funded partially out of levy, correct?
And that's the worst case scenario that I'm worried about. If something did happen, I don't think it's going to, but if something did, and that position went away, that is really gonna hurt the department.
And I'll just remind the committee that a couple months ago, we brought that job description to you and we added additional duties and responsibilities in terms of education. So this is something that's really integral to that department.
The only problem with this, is I remember, this is the position, correct me Nick if I'm wrong. This position I'm thinking of, when we discussed this first, I believe, land and water, or it went to personnel, everyone was pretty adamant about it staying a grant funded position. This position I'm thinking of? I think it must be, it's gotta be the only one.
It must be.
I think it is, Jim, but if I remember correctly, that come out, and you're right, that come out of land and water, that was before we changed the job description, what, 3 months ago, Ashley? 4?
Maybe 4.
Or something like that, and added a bunch of other duties to it, which kind of made it a job down there now that they can't operate without. We did that here, correct? Yeah.
And that position, not the person, the position has become pretty intimately involved with the operation of the department as a whole, not just land and water conservation, but land information, and zoning.
Personally, I'd like to see it stay, not more, or I would like to see it not affect, the levy more than 50%, because my thought process is if you lose a bunch of these grants, is this position going to be needed as much?
That's a question for Nick too.
So I'm thinking in here, this should be changed and not to exceed 50% of levy. Or 50% of this coming from levy.
So if.
That gives you
if I'm
some wiggle
understanding,
room.
If the grants all went away, the most that we would fund from levy would be 50%, is that?
Well,
Right.
that's what I'd like to see right now, cause I think it should be revisited then, because if your grants go away, you might come back and say, hey, I lost a bunch of funding, and we might be looking at a lot of things that we gotta trim here or there. I think it's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, if all those grants go away, I think we have a bigger thing to deal with than.
Right.
But right now, if we limit it to 50%, you know you got 50, you may have 75.
Right.
And you may have some room to play with to even hit 90 or 100.
Well,
The way you're
I still
talking, you're
plan,
hitting
as I
100
said,
this year,
I
but at
still
least
plan on funding it 100%.
it doesn't leave you high and dry in your department if you lose one program.
And if you, I mean, I think I'm fine with that language. I mean,
But yet at that point, Jim, there's nothing saying it can't be revisited at that time and changed again if asked.
My thought process is it'll get forgotten and then it won't get addressed again. Cause the resolutions go through this place a month, so let's just be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
This way, if we put the word in this way, it has to be revisited when the time comes.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at,
Right.
is if it's worded the way you're saying, there's nothing saying it can't be revisited at that time.
Right, right. And
No,
it can
I'm
be
not
changed, but at
saying
least-
the wording
At
as
least then
is.
the committee is involved in why do we
Right.
wanna do this?
Right, right.
And does it warrant for us to do it as the county? Is my thought.
No,
process.
I totally agree with you.
So I'd like to change that wording in there,
There's an amendment to offer.
couldn't get that. You're gonna do it for me?
I got it, you want it?
Go for it.
Alright, so, under the now therefore be resolved, cross out budget if grant funds are available, to the end point, and then replace with other applicable grants and fees if available, and levy funds up to 30% of the position. So it's gonna be more than 30% of the position then. Do we have to go back to committee or revisit it?
I would, go along with that, but I'd rather see it 30 than 30. 30 is pretty minimal, and that's gonna be based almost on the land information grant as it is now.
And the line above that, doesn't that need to be stricken? Where permanent, no matter if grant funding is available or not?
Yeah, we probably get rid of that.
Or else we need to put the amendment in there, I don't know how you want to do it, but.
30%'s gonna be 18,000-20,000-ish. In a few years, it'll be probably a little more than that. So that's a lot of money for, budget, I wanna be looking at that. I guess like at that point, they can always revise that or reevaluate it, but sometimes hard numbers, hard stops, needs people to stop and really look at things.
Jim, was kind of your idea, your take.
Well, Jonathan's amendment.
The motion, Jonathan?
Yes, to approve it, but, so cross out the lines 11 and 12. And strike out budgeted grant funds are available and replace it with other applicable grants and fees if available. And 30% of the position. I do want
Okay, do we have a motion on the floor?
Well, it doesn't sound like it's an issue for the first couple of years anyhow, they may have to revisit it down the road.
I mean, don't worry, I won't let you guys forget it either. I'll bring it back to you, but,
Well, sometimes it's good to bring these things back.
Yeah, it is.
no, I don't disagree.
And maybe there'll be another source or something we can come up with at that time to, if everything hits the wall, maybe there'll be another source to say, hey, we need to look at it this way or something. I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Does everybody understand the amendment as presented? Huh? No, the amendment, okay. Is there any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Not quite what you expected, Nick, but it's something.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Ashley?
Okay, so if you'll recall, we've had a couple SEP, opportunities. One was through the animal shelter and one is currently ongoing with the IT department, and Bugs is here, so maybe he can speak a little bit if you've got questions. But we were contacted by Dave Hibbert about an opportunity in our finance department. So Jamie met with Dave and she feels that yes, we can offer, this person with a work experience, there's work for that person to do. I think he can commit right now to like a part-time schedule. So we need the sign off of this committee to enter into that work experience with Seth again.
Any questions?
no, I mean, unless something's changed in the program, it's the same type of program we've been running.
Yep, so there's no fiscal impact to the county,
I'll make a motion.
But I have a question. So, I like the idea, only thing is how would this person be regulated so they're not privy to the information should be privy to?
We can monitor their access to different parts of our program and what folders they have to. I mean, I imagine that the IT person would, you know, if they have access to all the IT stuff, would have more access than any individual person in the department would have, so.
Alright.
Good with that, Jonathan? Motion's been made, is there a second? Second by Mr. Stout. Is there any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Alright, and then this update to the handbook is simply some house cleaning. So this committee approved offering all county employees a $50,000 life insurance policy, at no cost for 2024. And on the same token, we decided to eliminate the $5,000 health insurance policy that was grandfathered in for some of our highway department workers. So that's simply removing this language from the personnel handbook. Yeah, should be.
Very last page.
signify by aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything else?
Did you wanna present the, sure.
Okay, so I have a resolution appointing the Rusk County Human Resources Manager. Whereas the Human Resources Manager position has been vacant since January 26, 2023, and whereas the position was properly posted and the applications were reviewed and interviews conducted, and whereas the ad hoc interviewing committee selected Ashley Budis as the Human Resources Manager at a pay rate of $39.90 an hour with a start date of January 29th, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rusk County Board of Supervisors does appoint Ashley Budis, the Human Resources Manager, effective January 29th, 2024, at a pay rate of $39.90 an hour.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made to approve by Jonathan, is there a second?
So moved.
Seconded by Mr. Meyer, is there any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor with the appointment? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other updates?
We're going to be hiring 2 economic support specialist persons. One will be starting December 18th and one December 20th. So it'll be nice to get them on board.
Okay, thank you. Jim, back here?
Yep, I'm back here. You guys wanted me to stop back in December to give you an update on, the special hours outside of the policy, so that's on here. It's been pretty effective, been able to get a lot of things done after hours and weekends, things like that. We are not done with those projects, but I don't anticipate that, we would need too many more outside hours, of this. So I'm not asking for it to continue past December 31st. I think it's worked out very well, and I think it served its purpose. So, the rest of them that we're gonna do, we'll either, try to do at a different time, or we'll move some schedules around or anything like that. But then we wouldn't need an exception to the policy anymore. We just call it done at the 31st. So,
And we have it in place till then, right?
yes, yep.
How far out, will you be completed by then, do you, completely completed, or no?
No, the only thing that's really holding us up right now is just trying to get 2 companies to work together, one of them with our fiber, and HBS, just so they can get their technicians together, to finish off some of the closet, server work there. As far as the rest of it, it's probably gonna go into January, maybe February, but a lot of it is gonna be once they meet and they finish, then we get to do this last leg, and that should be fine as far as time frame goes, we can knock it down, so.
And it shouldn't interrupt anything else, right?
What's that?
Should not interrupt anything else.
No, as far as changing out, there's gonna be 13, switches that we're gonna change out. That is going to interrupt people, but we can do those at times when it's very minimal. The other one, we really have our time, which is the sheriff department, that's because they're here 24/7, so, but we can always work with them, when they have downtime, flip the switch on, and we're good to go.
Just let them know ahead of time, that's gonna be it out.
Yeah, they're excellent to work with, they're really easy going, they'll let us know, hey, no, this is exact time, we got this going on, this that going on. And we always check it too, because if they just get, like 911, is there some crash or something like that, we don't wanna do with that, obviously. But like I said, they're very easy to work with, so.
Back here at home, really.
Yeah, thank you guys for giving me the option to have that.
Good idea.
outside.
Oh,
Yeah,
Good idea.
we worked with this. Yep.
I think it worked out very well. Goodness.
You wanted Ashley or Connie? Well, Jeremy, you're,
He's finishing.
yeah.
Is this it?
Yeah.
Oh, good, let's make this short and sweet.
Yeah, whatever.
You've been doing better.
You guys have always been,
You've been doing better.
everyone came at the canvas,
You've
so,
been doing better.
thank you, I appreciate that.
We adjourned already.
So really, you know, just to revisit where we were last time is, you know, prevention specialist slash, educator is, you know, the discussion was in front of you, you had a JDQ, you had a job description that has been gone over a few times. I think where I'm at now, with your permission, is I'd really like to solidify that JDQ to make sure that that has exactly what we would want it to read and what we're looking for in a staff person. And then be able to send that out for the review process through Carlson Tech. And so, you know, that I think is the logical next step. And so, you know, nothing more, nothing less, I think that's our next step, is to have that, take a look at it. I'll pay the $100, I'll get a Walmart gift card, and,
For all of us?
maybe, yeah. But I think that might be the next best step, if you think it's a good idea to forge ahead with this. Again, my ideas, just to refresh this super quick, is this is a point person to collaborate and corroborate all of our primary prevention efforts within the county. School districts, community collaboration, all of our other partnerships with, you know, things like, Powerhouse and RCYC and all those types of things, to really have a place where we can start to generate relationship with the schoolhouse to do something like a curriculum, like botany and skills, or the like. And so, just from a standpoint of funding, I know we talked about this before, I think that Mr. Ducell had asked this before. We have the options of OWI surcharge allocations, we have an annual substance abuse block grant allocation. We have supplemental substance abuse block grant allocations available to us often. And we have our opioid settlement applications. And so primary prevention is obviously a good use of those allocations. Mr. Unterschutz, you have questions?
No, it's the same stuff we looked at last month, right?
It is exactly the same. In fact, the only thing that I would wanna do is, if you wanna go that route with having the JDQ reviewed, is I just wanna spend a few more minutes to dot the i's and cross the t's, to make sure that that says exactly what we want it to say. Specifically, is it a prevention specialist, which is a Department of Safety and Permanence certification, or are we looking for more of an educator person? Kind of both.
Yeah,
Kind of both.
agree with you.
But I think from a Carlson Detman standpoint, there will be a little more, probably a higher grade if it's a prevention specialist need, because that is a certification. That's a requirement that somebody would have to go get that to be able to have that skill set.
How does the two different ones change recruitment?
I don't think that we have a prevention specialist waiting in the wings, and so it would be a bachelor's level person with a prevention specialist ability to go obtain. So I think the recruitment is gonna be, you're looking for that person with that personality to be able to teach maybe 3rd to 7th grade. Not a teacher, but an educator, skill set, personality. That's a pretty specific recruitment. I mean, you're looking for somebody that is gonna be able to have 30 minutes, 45 minutes in the classroom during the week, a couple times a week, maybe, for short periods of time, and get across a curriculum and be able to create those relationships. So I envision that the prevention specialist certification is something that will have to be obtained as they come into.
I guess I'd rather see it be an educator. It'll make recruitment better, but also I think this position will be as much the personality of this person, but you can have all
think we can, on the JDQ, we can make it a requirement of XYZ period of time that they can obtain that prevention specialist.
They can pay them around.
Say that again?
They can pay them around the job.
Yeah. The reason the prevention specialist thing came along is that, back in the day when Julie Weaver was here, and she was working out of Indiana, and she had that credential, that allowed her to specifically apply for some grants that gives you a little bit more credibility when you apply for some grants, that they really would like you to be a prevention specialist. Cause it talks about evidence-based practice, it talks about working to fidelity, and rolling out curriculum to how it's meant to be clinically.
Does that title give them access to possibly more outside training, more outside resources and help in bad situations or troubling situations?
That's a good question. Generally speaking, that's what the department would do, is identify if there's additional training needs as a part of any one of our positions.
But, and I understand that, but I guess I'm asking versus the title of an educator and the title of a prevention specialist through the state or through the federal, does that give more training opportunities between the two?
I don't
Or
think so.
more resources for them to reach out to?
I don't necessarily think so, but if you're a prevention specialist, there may be groups of like cohorts that you'd be able to be a part of, like their group to run things past, just like social workers do, or those things. They'd have to examine those things to participate in those groups, to gain that extra insight. We try to promote that, regardless of the department, we try to promote that specifically is, don't go it alone, don't recreate the wheel. Let's get your friends together and have discussion about how things, could be done easier.
Good thing, don't say talk about.
Yeah, you gotta have somebody to talk about.
Definitely.
The challenge is what, Mr. Huntershoot said is, you have to have a person that has the personality to go in that schoolhouse, not only work with third graders, but eighth graders. And, that's a specific skill set, and
I probably asked you this last time, where's the funding coming from?
OWI surcharge allocations, so we have a lot of money in an OWI surcharge that is pretty specific to the state told me to stop calling, to say, how can we spend this money, or what use can we do with this, cause I'm a permission asker. And so they said, Jeremy, stop calling, the county can use it for whatever you want. You guys, the county board, could take that $150,000 plus, and you could apply it to my levy allocation, okay? They said, generally speaking, what people do is they use that money for primary prevention. They wanna prevent folks from, alcohol and drug substances for OWIs, okay? Some people use it to pay their weight assessor, their Wisconsin assessment of the impaired driver type of scenario. We contract with a company that comes in, we don't exchange any money. So they just use our space to do those assessments, but we get this 52% of that money. We have it.
But to go, elaborate on Jim's question, should that, does that money come to you yearly, or?
It's quarterly.
Oh, of course, oh.
Every time there's an OWI, people pay it used to be $420 as a part of their fees, and I think it's 51.3% stays with the county, and the rest goes back to the state. And so this money has been collecting for as long as I can remember.
Well, my point is, when that $150,000 is gone, then where's the funding for this position?
Yeah, so then I got 3 or 4 other spots here, is, we have an annual substance abuse block grant that is $30,407. At least 20% of those dollars has to be spent on primary prevention, so $6,000. We have a hard time right now spending that $30,407 because we can't get most folks have medical assistance for treatment, so we don't use that money there. So it's really boiling down to women's treatment and primary prevention. And women's treatment right now is very difficult because most folks have, medical assistance. So if they go to a treatment facility, the county pays the room and board, but we can't use state allocations to pay room and board, so it has to come out of our adult service-based allocation. And so, it's one of those rules that we have to live by. So there's $30,407 there. We then have supplemental dollars, like right now we have available to us $50,000 annually that you write a grant and you talk about what you're doing with those funds. Heavy on primary prevention. And then the opioid settlement allocations. We're very lucky right now that we do not have the opioid overdose death that is happening around us. And so again, primary prevention. Let's talk to kids and young adults about the dangers of opioids and other drug and substance abuses. So those four specifically, and then again, say that all gets spent. This is what we wanna talk about, right? We have to talk about this. Say it all gets spent and it's 5 years down the road, okay? And I come back to you and I say, hey, okay, here's the deal, I've spent those allocations. Of course, I'd be back before it's go time, but, you know, say I'm back in 2 years, and I say, hey, in 3 years, we're gonna need to move this into, our adult services base allocation to pay this person, okay? I will have another plan for you, otherwise we'll have to end it, because we'll only use the funding that we have available to us. Part of the GDQ is to be a grant writer, is to take a look at what other grants are out there that we could maximize. That's where prevention specialists comes into play, is they've got a little more, keep saying the word credibility, they have a little more credibility as to their position to apply for certain grants.
So are you okay with this position when it's created being supplied by grant funds only?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm totally cool with that. Historically, what we've done is we've used these dollars to leverage a person that isn't a part of our system, and we pay for somebody else to do what we're asking them to do. If it's in-house, we control the trajectory, and we fund it with what we've got. So, bless you. We only have a fair amount of, bless you one more time. We asked for less than $1 million, give or take, in levy for 7 of our departments, okay? If I needed to come back to you and say, hey, here's the deal, we planned for this, and this, it didn't really work out, okay? Then I'm right back here saying, hey, I either have another plan for you, or we're gonna not be able to have the position, okay? I'm not gonna sit here and blow smoke up your backside and say, this is just gonna turn into a levy position. I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'll grant fund it as long as I can. We'll search for grants as long as we can. I hate to say this out loud, but I'm gonna say it. I think there's an opportunity that this position could be multifaceted across multiple departments, whether it's adult services and children and family, and even our comprehensive community services program. There might be the opportunity to wrap this into a little bit of a case management that could also help to offset some of those costs. A lot of counties are doing that. I don't wanna get so fragmented in one position that then you're like, you can't focus on what you're supposed to be doing. So I wanna steer this thing as best I can to be one-dimensional to start with primary prevention. You guys are asking good questions that have long answers, and I just held the answer.
I won't do that.
So I'd like to have a sheet kept up aside that says I answered the question.
Well, we may have asked some before.
You guys asked good questions last time, because it is funding, and I would be remiss not to tell you that things cost money, and things are expensive. When Carlson Detman could shoot this whole thing in the foot, because we get that GDQ together, we send that thing off, they come back and they say, hey, that's a grade 12, and here's your rate, that's $30 an hour, okay? First thing I'm gonna do is compile all my money, and I'm gonna divide it by $30 an hour plus all the roll-ups, and the not worst case scenario, but benefit package and the whole works, doesn't take long to get to 80 grand, okay? And if I only have $300,000 worth of funding that we would earmark towards this, that's 3 years, 4 years, you know, 3 years worth of money. You know, 3.5 years worth of money. So, I wanna be cognizant of that we might have to go back to the drawing board before we actually get the county board saying, hey, resolution, let's add this position.
Jeremy, this position being said, I'm gonna test you.
Do I need to put my glasses on?
Say it is $80,000 a year. And let me say, 5 years from now, this was all levy funded.
Mhm.
Without this position, what would be it paid out in treatment, this kind of stuff, that this could, could prevent?
Yeah, super good. So last time, Mr. Undershoot asked a great question. Two-part. We're talking about primary prevention in 3rd grade. We won't know for years until we measure the data, okay? So we take that first grade, that first class in 3rd grade in all of our school districts, and we start tracking those buggers, okay? And we see what their recidivism is. That's the fidelity of a program as a prevention specialist, okay?
Okay, and I get that, and I remember that question being asked. But in any other county, have they been operating long enough that they do have some kind of data that you could enlighten us with? I mean,
Yeah, Buffalo County, I can come back with this. Buffalo County has been doing this, so this is where I kind of got the idea of using this, so I can see if they've got some stats. The second portion of that question.
He's gotta come back again, that's bad.
I'll space it out, so
You started this.
it'll be 2024, okay. The second part of that question was the folks that did have recidivism, starting to track to help you adjust your program as what made the difference for you to start using, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. And that was a good question that Jonathan asked is, you know, that's all part of data gathering. And then you can come back and say, okay, hey, here's the deal. There were 120 kids in that class throughout our county, and this is the recidivism rate. This is you start looking at through our CHA chip, you start looking at some of the health risks that are associated with alcohol and drug and those kinds of things. We can tie that into a whole bunch of data. And so you won't really know until you kind of run that thing down the road a little bit. That's data.
You see where I'm going on here. Theoretically, you can spend some money to save some money.
Yep, 100%.
Possibly, but
100%.
I don't know the answer to it.
That's a true statement. I'm a big fan of that. Is if we front load service, then it's more likely that you're gonna catch the attention of somebody, and so then you're gonna hopefully save yourself deeper in service as adults. And that's, we know that.
Proactive versus reactive.
The one thing that I will not sit here and blow smoke up anybody's, keister, is that, it's very difficult to tell if you're going to start with 3rd grade, you at the same time, parallel treatment, you have to take a look at the parents, okay? Because generally speaking, you sit in a room with kiddos and you're talking about primary prevention. They go home, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, cousins, whoever they live with, first thing they do when they get home from work in Wisconsin is they start drinking beer, okay? Not everybody, but some do. Some go in the basement and smoke marijuana. Some go to the neighbor and they do methamphetamine. And they come back and they parent in their family, okay? You're not gonna change all those folks, but the awareness that, hey, there might be a certain portion of that population that says, hey, I wanna stop using methamphetamine as an adult, okay? The kid could say, holy smoke, there's a teacher that I met today in my primary prevention class, maybe you should talk to them, okay? That happens, okay? So then you start creating that, maybe you got an opportunity to break the cycle. And so, and that's what we celebrate, okay? But that takes work, and that takes what I'm talking about is a point person that can get into the schools and collaboratively talk about it. Maybe that kid goes and tells the guidance counselor, hey, my kid says he's having a hell of a time with drinking, he needs some help. Well, the guidance counselor knows our department or knows a provider and says, hey, father, get over to Aurora and engage in some individual sessions that makes their marriage better, makes their parenting better, makes them feel better. Maybe they don't have any health issues. Maybe there's not child protection where we're looking at removal. I mean, it's endless. You just don't know, it's endless opportunity. So.
Any other questions?
I'd like to ask a question here. It says, provide prevention and education training services to schools and community groups. What groups do you target?
Outstanding.
How do you reach out to them?
Oh, this is super good. So, again, if you have a point person, we've got things happening in our community like Powerhouse. Kids get together and that kind of stuff, and they have programming. We have the Rusk County Youth Coalition and Council. We have the Rusk County Library that does all kinds of things down there that they get people in and they have different groups and those things running. We want this person to at least be a part of that. Not that they're gonna go in always and do presentations, but you want them to at least be a cohesive, collaborative member, so that as those things spill over, maybe Powerhouse is talking about alcohol and drugs. Well, gosh, let's get the primary or the prevention educator or specialist down there, just to say, hey, here's my view on the world through my glasses. And then you just never know who you're gonna touch. And so again, I can rah-rah this thing as much as you want, okay? But at the end of the day, it's primary prevention to hopefully save us deeper end cost when I'm well and gone from here, when a lot of our staff is well and gone. That's when you'll see the effect of these programs.
So what do you need from us to get this moving in the right direction right now?
What I-
Well, to do a JDQ?
Yep, I think that's what we should do. What I would like to, and I don't know if it's Ashley or Lynn or whoever, but I would like to just take another quick look at the JDQ with the option of sending it off with $100 bill, so that we can have Carlson Denton take a look at it and scale it for us, and just say, is this what you meant, or, whatever they do, and put it through their rigors, and then when I've got that, then we know, based on our scale, then I know where it's at, I know what line it's on, I know how much this is gonna cost us, and we can run it through there so I can start bumping it against some real planning.
I'll make the motion, moving on, Carlson, finalize the JDQ.
Motion's been made and seconded to finalize the JDQ and moving on to Carlson Detman. Is there any further questions or comments on the motion on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
You guys are the greatest. A lot of water cooler talk, that this is the best personnel committee in Rusk County. This is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, right.
A lot of water cooler talk.
So we want to open it this time.
Is there algae in the water?
We can do that upstairs.
Or is it this time?
Okay, thank you very much, okay,
Pick
everybody?
your feet up off the floor anyhow.
Hey, thanks for your time today, okay? Thank you.
At this time, I
Hey,
would.
thank you for coming to work today.
My pleasure. I just got the memo with Thursday.
That was good.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you.
So moved.
Motion made, second by Jonathan. Mr. Scully. Mr. Meyer.
Yes.
Mr. Undershield. Yes, we are now going into closed session for pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, para 1, para C. Considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. We are now in closed session. As presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the alumni request and other, vague usage as presented.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Seconded by Mr. Stoll. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I would entertain, Ashley, do you have, personal changes?
What's that for you?
Okay. made and seconded to return. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.